What it do, chooms? Welcome back to SPACEJB. I am your Porsche whipping, ingrammatic brain invading, and permanently pissed corrupt corpo hating rocker boy, Space Silverhand, and thank y'all for clicking this video. One of Cyberpunk's kings of cool, a legendary lawman that was shown in one of the coolest trailers I've ever seen, and still would have been #1 if that Vessel of Hatred trailer didn't recently drop. Did y'all see that? I digress. Being one of the sneakiest of mystery men that could easily become your favorite in-game character or most hated villain, I'm of course talking about the ever-loyal NUSA agent and of course mi padre in that of Solomon Reed. Though this character was only created for the Phantom Liberty expansion, he is easily seen by fans as one of the most nova characters in the Cyberpunk universe. And in this video, I will venture into the lore of Reed and what I'm calling the sad story of the loyal lawman. So without further ado, let's cook up these engines and let's take off.
You hear what I'm saying to you? That gonna rage a hole and we're both gonna die.
What happened to I don't fear no man but God?
Correction, God and the that shot me. Oh.
Let's get this journey in motion and start with Soul's early life. I'm gonna keep it preem with y'all. From multiple playthroughs and clicking every piece of literature, sifting through all the messages I could find, there isn't a whole lot to paint a vivid picture of what my dad was up to before he joined the FIA. So, I really
Never knew my father.
Come here.
As I mentioned earlier, Solomon Reed is not an OG or founding character like that of Alt Cunningham or Raish Bartmoss. So buckle up, Cybernauts, cause this part of the video is partially one big space theory, using deets and dialogues from the expansion, the Cyberpunk wiki, as well as the Ten of Swords comics, which serves as a prequel to the events that happened in Phantom Liberty, was the means of trying to make this video as thorough and as enjoyable as possible. It's a task any info bro would welcome, right? I mean, how hard could it be? It's not like this guy works for the government as a spy, which they wouldn't eradicate any traces of his past, making it impossible for your bro Space to dig up anything. Oh shit. The info on Soul is very thin. In the universe of Cyberpunk, the dude practically, he just exists. No birth date, no mention of his mom or his dad, we don't know what's going on there. Other people may have seen him when he was younger, but they're all dead. And in my opinion, it doesn't really matter because, you know, he's practically looked like this his entire life. Imagine that, a baby looking like this. Or the new kid in middle school when the teacher introduces looks like this guy, kicking all y'all ass during recess. I've always imagined Soul's character being from California. And some of y'all may be like, wait a minute, Space. The lore clearly says his home is Washington, D.C. This is, in my opinion, where his current home is because of what he does for a living, but not where I think he spent most of his life or where he was probably born. In the cinematic trailer, Soul mentions the first thing he wanted to do when he got home was this.
Tell me.
Taco stand back home. First thing I'm gonna do when I get off this train is head right there. I swear those quesadillas come to me in my dreams.
Admittedly, I don't know how popular tacos and quesadillas are in DC, but your bro has never heard of someone saying, you know where a place to get some smashing tacos? DC.
That stupid English voice, was that me?
Unfortunately, yes.
I don't know why I went with the British accent, but it did! And it was poorly done, and that's okay. We're gonna keep it in this video. Knowing the reasons why he's even on that train, trying to get out of Night City at this point in his life, how he looks out the window and says back home just makes me feel like he has some history there. While living in California, the teeny tiny innocent wee baby
fist pawing
was a man, he had a beard.
Again, he looked like this, who joined the military. Getting his taste for war and combat, working for the NUSA Spec Ops, he was in South America burning villages with one of our favorite cyber psychos, Maine. It's hard to say if these two soldiers ended up becoming really close chums or not throughout their service, because just after 2 years, Maine would take his discharge, seemingly not being okay with the stuff that he had to do in the name of the NUSA.
Yes, sir.
The government.
Fighting in a war together, I'm pretty sure that they had a certain level of respect for one another. You know, brothers in arms. but their paths still diverged completely, with Maine going to Night City and becoming a merc. After Maine left, Soul continued to do what was asked of him, following orders like any other soldier would. While serving for NUSA Spec Ops, Soul got an offer to use his apparent pyrotechnic skills, as well as other militant attributes, to serve the FIA. Doing a little deep diving into the Federal Intelligence Agency and how those sneaky Pete's became a legit organization helped flush out a little bit more of Reed's backstory. During the golden days, the top 4 authorities in the Cyberpunk universe, being the CIA, FBI, NSA, and DEA, were known as the Gang of Four, formed what was called the political cabal. When the original US government collapsed, it was mainly because of them and their endless political and military influence. These gonks were ridiculous. They were an unchecked, ungoverned powerhouse like Thanos with the Infinity Gauntlet post-snap. The FIA was created as a response to the chaos that transpired. That all changed in 2053 during the ratification of the NUSA Constitution. After this happened, they were given so much scratch and were granted extensive power and privileges. All ran under former President Elizabeth Crest, with the ability to afford the best tech that was available and enough secret informants to practically create an army. This is where I think Reed was recruited to the FIA. I mean, why wouldn't you? During this massive boom in business and being offered the type of technology that was allotted to these soldiers, it would be easy to see him getting picked up by them. Working under Elizabeth Crest for a short period of time, the man was out there doing them dirty.
I'm a dirty dog. Try everything. All the fixings.
Just building a legendary resume as somebody who you couldn't corrupt, money couldn't buy. There wasn't an amount of torture that man would go through that he would give up the information. He was out there saying nothing.
I've got a little itch. Down there. Would you mind?
But doing it all. It is said that Soul had put in the work to rank his name amongst those like Morgan Blackhand. Merc work wasn't in the cards for Reed, not wanting to be known as a one-hit wonder, constantly looking for the major league gig in the afterlife. The dude was serving up Dread-style justice as a spy. All that mattered to him was serving the NUSA. Getting his hands dirty seemingly wasn't a big issue, because if the man's mission was successful, the NUSA would easily wipe any traces of his existence. He wouldn't take any unnecessary risks and get all cocky thinking he can just handle anybody.
Not a problem. You're gonna have to get me to a doctor. Shoot that fuck! Then get me to a doctor. Okay, yeah.
With a ton of covert intelligence missions under his belt, it turned him into an expert at information extraction, uncovering other spies and netrunners, breaking into some of the world's most secure places like Gentle Johnny Raminsky, knocking off major political targets, not just small-time thugs. We're talking powerful players around the globe. There are even tales of him going back to the Southern American government, stirring up shit, causing coups. Like burning their villages wasn't bad enough. Between 2065 and 2069, right before current President Myers, aka took over and started strong arming the people with her unification plan, Soul had already solidified himself as one of the most valuable assets the NUSA had on their side. Credit to the man's flawless track record as an FIA agent, there really wasn't a mission that the man didn't accomplish. Now, when it came to having an army, it was kind of like that line from Avengers that Loki was talking about when he said they have a Hulk. They had a
Solomon Reed's the name. 7 years ago, he headed up our intelligence efforts in Night City. He and Somi were a team. With conflict over, he went into hibernation. So he's out there somewhere. Reed's a man of principle. He can't be swayed, can't be bribed. If there's anyone we can trust now, it's him. Let's say you want to secure your interests on another country's soil. If diplomacy fails, you resort to other means.
Like a military coup?
That's one option. Solomon Reed is another sure one.
He didn't do all of his Batman in solo, being hyperfixated on details, ensuring that the more deets you have, the better the chance of success during a mission. Being a master at putting the right people together for gigs was always a talent in his back pocket. There are no deets that I've found to specify how many team members he's ran missions with, nor much information on most of their names. The main ones that are mentioned are that of Jonas Collison, Alina Xenakis. Lastly, we have Song So Mi. Reed over time has worked with many different agents, recruiting a ton of them, possibly having to expose his own team and going as far as to flatline some of them as well. From movies and novels, the spy life seemingly pays well, doesn't yield much for having a social life or genuine friendships. Being in this world for so long has probably stripped him of any genuine connections to people. To have real friends that aren't killed or become traitors could be a longing that some spies have. From what I've learned about Reed, from the bits of his past and certain expressions that you can catch on his face during some of the game's dialogue, in my opinion, this all points towards this man possibly wanting these type of connections with the members of his cell teams. And the developers at Cyberpunk do put a lot into their characters' body language, the facial expressions, and the voice inflections to really bring these characters to life. 7 years prior to the events that happened in Phantom Liberty in 2077, Reed was given the specific task ordered by President Myers to put together a cell team that largely consisted of Alex, Jonas Collison, and Song So Mi, amongst a few other agents that necessarily aren't mentioned. At some point, he reached out to Maine to ask if he'd come join the FIA. Maine declined the offer, and if you've watched the Edge Runners anime, then you know how his life journey played out.
This mess my fault.
Reed has been working with Alex and So Mi for well over a decade. Alex was the first of the main crew to be recruited, and Song followed a little bit after that. Let's first talk about the shapeshifter herself and one of the best undercover agents the FIA has ever had in their employ, Alina Xenakis, aka Alex. Growing up in LA, she had dreams of becoming a brain dance actress. Following through with her dreams, she did end up landing a gig, just that it turned out the studio she worked for was a ruse. It was a front for the FIA. Her impressive acting chops put her on their recruitment radar, which Soul was the one to bring her into the agency. There is something that I have to point out though. The way Reed recruited people under the FIA was not always by the most upstanding means. The man was a spy, of course, and some of these people were not necessarily wanting to join the FIA or become a spy. But we all know Reed was the guy to call that could complete any mission and would get it done using whatever means he needed to. That includes false promises of people that were looking for eddies, fame, a position of power, or anything in between, straight up lying to these people, I am sure, and blackmail, as you will come to learn about later on in this video. That doesn't even end the list of all the things that he could have done in order to recruit these people to the FIA, or what he was willing to do to recruit these people to the FIA. There isn't much information out there that can paint a quality picture of the dynamic between Alex and Soul, yet through their interactions and how they talk to each other, I chucked it up to akin to two siblings that bickered and fought. They had a level of respect for each other that was never crossed, but there was also this kind of tension and distrust between the two. And through the game, you'll have some interactions or some text messages between Alex that really points that she didn't trust Soul as far as she could throw him, and she admonished you to do the same with him and any other FI agent for that matter, because they were all bad news. Now let's mention a character that was Reed's protege and damn near best recruit that he ever made, and also everybody's beau in Song So Mi, aka Songbird. Without deep diving into the lore or just thinking too much about everything, one would see Songbird and Soul's relationship like a dad and a daughter. Song got picked up by the FIA when she was tracked after hacking into a Militech data fort. This effectively made her a target and was being hunted by Militech goons. Reed found out and thought it would be a good idea to recruit her into the FIA. Reed felt that a netrunner with her skills could be a very useful asset to the FIA. When she was being recruited, she basically declined the first offer, and Soul used blackmail, like I said before, by saying that she and everyone she loved would be hunted, found, and zeroed unless she joined up. A couple years after being recruited to the FIA, So Mi was put on her first big mission with Soul and Alex, and her responsibility was to put together the dossier and all the details that Soul and Alex would need to complete the mission successfully. They were in South America causing that coup that I was talking about earlier, and So Mi forgot a very important piece of information that almost got Alex killed.
Our person of interest was one Luis Hernandez, arms trading heavyweight. We aim to plant our own SA in his organization. Alex had adopted the identity of an engineer from Hernandez's entourage. She was out to get in. She walks in to attend a meeting one day. She sees one of Luis's bikini model girlfriends prancing out on her way to Walkie's Doberman. Spending big money on kids' luxury. It was kind of his MO.
So what happened?
Well, Somi had put together Hernandez's dossier. Problem was, an important detail slipped through the cracks. The engineer's abject fear of dogs. Cold sweat, shaky hands, soggy pant leg, that kind of fear. When the Doberman sniffed Alex's knee, she pats him on the head and says, "Who's a good boy?" Then, she went to pull up a chair at Hernandez's table. Before she could sit down, they had 2 barrels to her head and 1 trained at the base of her spine.
Worked out though, right? We're all here, now, together.
Which can't be said for Hernandez and his men. We took any possibility of that from them. All thought of subterfuge went poof. We had to kick the door down. A rival cartel wiped them out. That was the official version.
There is a rumor going around that says Somi could have possibly done this on purpose in order to flatline the people that were responsible for her being where she was at. I think though she forgets that she did hack a Militech data fort and was on the verge of being zeroed, so she kind of put herself in a bad position to begin with. Though when Soul and her were leaving New York City, her original home, she never looked back and told Soul that he saved her life. You can't see my air quotes right now, but that's all right, cause Soul for a second didn't believe that she thought those words were true, which means that he already knew maybe she had some kind of resentment towards him and the FIA. With that information, let's go ahead and fast forward a bit into the Unification War, Pacifica, and the birth of Dogtown, and how this all laces into Reed's life. Now, I won't go too deep into the topic because I've already went through this with my Origins of Dogtown video, which y'all could check out if you choose to, but I still want to dig in just a tad bit to talk about where Reed's role was in this whole event, or the series of events. We already know why Pacifica was very important, and part of that was because it was supposed to be a big cash grab for the elite to come in and spend a lot of money. But what folks didn't know was underneath Pacifica was a secret government project going on that was known by Project Cyberpunk, and the project was completely created to counteract Arasaka's Soul Killer program. And Cyberpunk's job was to basically take rogue AIs that were in the net and trap them in hopes that Militech could use them for later purposes. With this project being shut down for quite some time before a lot of these events took place, the big thing that helped me tie Reed to Song So Mi as far as maybe knowing what Cyberpunk was about is that Militech relied heavily on Netrunner's abilities to host these rogue AIs and funnel their powers to use in real world events as well as in cyberspace. So the more powerful Netrunner they have, the more possibilities that they could host one of these rogue AIs. And a lot of the experiments that were done on Netrunners. So if years later they find a very powerful Netrunner or a new Netrunner with abilities that supersedes a lot of the Netrunners that were available at that time, then maybe Soul saw that she could be used for this project. Now, that is a complete space theory, as a lot of this stuff is, but just roll with your boy. Doesn't that make a little bit of sense? With his reputation and known undying loyalty to the powers that be, why wouldn't he be on the hunt to find all sorts of ways that NUSA could get the upper hand? I'm not saying that he never cared for her, and I'm also not saying that he gave a damn about her as well. He could have not wanted to see an 18-year-old get flatlined by Militech, or maybe saw a bit of himself reflected back at him when he visited Songbird for the first time. There's also the possibility that he didn't give one shit about her and only was looking out for the interests of the FIA. One big question that always plagued me while I was making this video that started to really fester in my mind from sifting through some of this dialogue, text messages, and all the content I could, is he trustworthy? Is he somebody that you can believe when he says something? How he feels, what he's trying to do, his intent, his goals? Because a lot of folks paint a different picture that anyone in the FIA, including Reed, is very untrustworthy and only in it for themselves. This leads us into one of the juiciest parts to his backstory in my opinion, which is the betrayal of Solomon Reed. This all happened a whole 7 years before the events of Phantom Liberty that we get involved in as V to help President Myers escape her fate in Dogtown. Between 2069 and 2070, during the war, Reed was given orders by Myers to infiltrate Night City, put together a SEAL team that would run covert missions all throughout the area and including Pacifica. This was a way for Myers to keep her hand in the war without necessarily being at fault or to blame if things went wrong. That way, if anything went awry, she didn't lose any favor or was found at fault. She can basically steer the narrative towards her cause. Reed, being a very loyal servant, agreed to this situation and his team got a lot bigger. He added a few more members that would be spread throughout Night City that would complete different missions. The big thing was Arasaka started to fight back, and Arasaka is no easy win. A lot of the agents were being wiped out and or coming up missing. One of the newer agents that Reed added to his team was that of Jonas Collinson, a young agent that really looked up to Reed and is very talented, but he wasn't the brightest bulb on the street, if you know what I'm saying. Someone who I speculate had such admiration for what Reed stood for, he would do whatever he could to gain his approval, basically like a kid trying to impress their father. When it comes to the team ranks, he was pretty skilled at his job of being a solo, and he worshipped the NUSA cause. Going up against Arasaka was a tough enough challenge, and was made even tougher when Reed at some point during the war was given the task to get his team together and assassinate a very important Arasaka admiral named Murata Ozuru. This mission was later called off by Myers at the end of the war after she was forced to sign the treaty, and Soul's cell was ordered to be dismantled and all sent home. At least the remaining survivors were, and this was Soul's next task, is to extract all of his remaining agents safely out of Night City. This wasn't made easy again by Arasaka, who was hunting all of these people down and trying to wipe them out. Arasaka had tilted the scales in their favor, causing the president to practically tuck her tail. One of the big reasons why this task was so hard is that Arasaka practically runs Night City. They have their hands in everything, and it's hard to extract people that weren't supposed to be there in the first place safely out of a place that at this point in time was on major lockdown. And now Reed was starting to lose more agents as Arasaka's noose was starting to get tighter and tighter around the FIA's neck. At some point, Reed lost one of his agents that was out trying to buy a pack of smokes who got shot in the back of the head, and another agent recently died before Reed was getting ready to extract his last members out of Night City, where they were blown up in a car explosion. During the time that this was happening, Alex was tasked to be undercover in Dogtown and infiltrate that area for all the information that she could find, while Reed, Song So Mi, and Jonas Collinson were the last agents left in Night City. Song So Mi kind of secured a point position next to the president, and that left Jonas Collinson and Reed to be the last two to be extracted. Though Arasaka was putting the squeeze on the FIA, Soul did manage to get a few of his agents safely out of NC using his underground connects. With that being said, he did formulate a solid plan for him and Jonas Collinson to safely get out of NC. He managed to set up a rendezvous with the unnamed driver that he paid to safely extract him and Jonas out of Night City and into Southern California. During the last days of Reed being in NC, Song and Soul met up at a diner when a shocking report pops up on the TV exclaiming that Ozuru, his wife, and child were all killed in a remote-controlled AV sabotage explosion. With no one knowing why or how the AV was sabotaged, with Myers specifically calling off the mission, Songbird tells him that with the news he should leave town right away because Arasaka has probably upped their hunt for anybody working for the NUSA. Soul tells her he still has to get his remaining team member, Jonas, out of harm's way. Songbird thought this was a waste of time because she felt that he was a lost cause, someone that if caught by Arasaka would easily ratted them out to save his own skin. With Reed going out to find Jonas, Songbird tells him to hit her on the hollow if he ends up needing anything, and also with a little cryptic message stating that there is no such thing as honor in NC. Tracking Jonas to a no-tell motel where he was being worked over by an Arasaka ninja, before or during the time that Reed and Song were having a meal, Jonas was scooped up by Arasaka against his will, of course, to be interrogated for info. Tortured is what I'm really saying. After purchasing a cap from a homeless man to conceal his identity, Reed makes his way into where Jonas was being held and notice him looking like Zim after his fight with the Planet Snatchers.
I'm through with you.
While tied up and gagged, Jonas was trying to warn Reed that there was a ninja still hiding in the bathroom, though Soul, being an expert, he already knew, and playing it chill, blasted the ninja through the wall. After rescuing Jonas, Soul had one thing on his mind. Did he have anything to do with the AV explosion? Jonas unfortunately had made a bad bet on himself, blowing up the AV to kill Ozuru and not his family, but didn't follow Reed's lesson of waiting and gathering all the intel needed. And since the mission was canceled by President Myers, Jonas did this all on his own to impress Reed. Clearly pissed and knowing it would be easier to just let Arasaka kill him, still decided to follow through and get Jonas and himself out of NC. Again, there are times where I don't know about Reed. Is this man trustworthy? Is he really caring about these people, or is this all a ploy? With both of them being just one more move away from getting out of Arasaka's range, the plan ran into another layer of ice, so to speak, when the arranged driver decided to up the price, knowing how risky the situation now became. Being between Arasaka and a hard place, and not having the extra scratch to sway the driver, Reed gave his last safe ticket out of Night City to Jonas, which gave him a start at a new life. While leaving from his last secure ride out of Night City, Soul was spotted by a camera. After this, Arasaka knew exactly where his ass was at, and boy were they ready. This move seemingly sealed his fate until he remembered what Song had told him. Hit her up if he needed anything, and this was as prima time as any. This plan was for Reed to make his way to a maglev train heading out of NC towards the NUSA governed part of Cali, which was just Southern California. She, as a netrunner, would help knock out any cameras, unlock doors, and scramble any traces of his whereabouts. Song advised him to get a high vantage point to take the leap onto the train, as he damn sure couldn't get a ticket and not be discovered with all the cameras around. As Soul makes it to the last step in the escape plan, we join him at this point in the Phantom Liberty trailer.
Well, listen, when this is all over, you gotta take a break, you hear me? Tell me, do you copy? Show me we got a passenger in his carrier, and I think we might be compromised. Can you hack the trap? Show me.
Every time I watch this trailer, I'm just as surprised as Homelander when he hits that button and finds out that he was betrayed by So-Mi. Soul was put up by President Myers and betrayed by the entire NUSA as the front man that Arasaka needed to knock off as far as evening the playing field and keeping everybody else's name safe. She had that man targeted and killed and used So-Mi to do it. Whole 7 years would pass by after the betrayal of Solomon Reed by the government he worked for and his protege. This brings me to my last topic of the video, which is the sorrow of Solomon Reed. After finding out that the president betrayed Reed, who used So-Mi to zero him, he is called out of hibernation using what Myers refers to as a dog whistle. She also asks you not to tell him that she called it that. Upon meeting Reed for the first time, you take him to where the Prez is held up. During a convo they have, Reed automatically calls her out for the betrayal.
I already died for the cause once. Not enough?
What do you mean you died already?
What has Myers told you about me?
Said you'd led an intelligence cell here. Went into hibernation at war's end.
So she omitted the fact that Arasaka tried to smoke me. And that I ended up in intensive care with 3 bullet holes. That 6 months had passed before I could take a shit on my own.
Might have slipped her mind.
Convenient. Well, now you know.
Let me get this straight. You abandoned Reed in NC. Leave him for dead, and now expect him to jump right back into shit? Newsflash, Madam President. Got a hell of a debt to pay.
At this point, when I first played this game, I was thinking, oh, she owes his ass the world. And she instead gives him this weak-ass apology.
You're right. I'm sorry, Reed, for those 7 years. Is that enough to get us a fresh start?
atrocious apology. And I was like, he has to tell her to kiss his black ass. But instead, I was again Homelandered when he easily accepted that one sentence apology, saying to her that you can call him naive, but he is doing it for So-Mi and his country. Okay, Captain fucking America. And it was at this point I started to wonder, is this man's loyalty voluntary, or is he somewhat brainwashed, Bucky Barnes up in this bitch? He literally brought that up to basically say it's Nova 2 seconds later. Like, I'm not doing it for you, Myers. It's for So-Mi and the government. Yeah, the same government that tried to kill you. At the end of the conversation, he sealed the bridge back to his FIA service by saying it's all part of the job.
The end of any war is never pretty. Both sides race to tie up loose ends. A car bomb blew up one of my crew. Another was poisoned. The third got shot in the back of the head while buying a pack of smokes. A couple others just vanished without a trace. Every night we waited for Arasaka agents to come finish us off. I had to make a choice. I chose to dig our heels in. I thought we still had a fighting chance. It was bold. It was stupid. A mix of both. Maybe I just didn't know how to walk away, let it rest. Or maybe I don't know how to lose. Either way, we managed to save a few more agents. The price for that was yours truly.
Reed was just suffering. Reed was in so much pain throughout all of this, regardless of the reasons why. The man had something going on that was stirring up inside him. Now, there's a lot of paths throughout the Phantom Liberty playthrough that can give you a different idea about Reed, and is why I would suggest that you go through and play Phantom Liberty for yourself if you haven't already. And those who have, you understand where I'm coming from. And what I'm sure is the most common endings, called King of Wands, is where you, V, side with Song So-Mi, deciding that she's been taken advantage of by the FIA and Reed, which means that you don't sabotage the situation to ensure that she could escape a fate that was worse than death. During this mission, you have to help So-Mi escape Hansen's grasp and get her to the lunar shuttle, but you also have to take Reed's life at the very end. After this, you get a text message from Alex later on asking you to meet her at the bar. During the conversation that you have with Alex, she straight up asks you, what happened with Reed? If you choose the one that blames Myers, this is what V says.
He blindly followed orders, gave me no choice. I think he saw death as a possibility from the moment Myers and I showed up.
Meaning?
Knew Myers well, her cynicism. Knew she might just play him, and he let her.
With this ending, Reed seemingly knew he was a puppet the whole time. He knew he didn't have any control, but he loved his government so much, he would do everything in his powers to make sure that the NUSA came out on top, even if that meant hurting a lot of people that he eventually started to care about. And the only way he felt that he could have some sense of relief from it all was to be taken out at the end. He knew that he would have to sacrifice himself in order for So-Mi to truly be free. If you choose the King of Swords, in this ending, V decides to betray So-Mi and give her back to the NUSA, dooming her to a worse fate than death. You have this conversation with Reed where he mentions something that I talked about earlier.
It was a sign, Reed. Should never have recruited her. Tried turning her into something she wasn't.
I didn't care if she was a patriot. I needed an agent.
There a difference?
Listen, I need a few days to put together what we promised you. I trust that's no problem.
See what I was talking about earlier? The man was always on the job. He didn't care who it was or how he felt about them. If it meant getting the NUSA to the top of the list, he would do whatever to whomever to ensure that they would succeed. And that also meant taking an innocent teenager, bringing her into the FIA, and dooming her to a fate worse than death. I mean, don't get me wrong, he might have cared for her at some point, but he never cared for her more than he cared for his job. One of the last normal endings that you can get in Phantom Liberty. You can betray So-Mi, but then decide to grant her death to free her from NUSA's grasp, and from being just used as a weapon, taking away all of her humanity, feeding what remains of her to the Black Wall.
V, I almost lost everything because of you.
Fuck, Reed.
Don't talk, just listen. I lost partners, friends, the trust of my superiors. Everything I believed in, built my life on, gone in seconds. All because I believed you'd help me save So-Mi.
Reed, I saved So-Mi. You know that. You were angry for some other reason. Maybe still are. Things slipped from your grip. You didn't get to make the final call. But know what? From where I'm sitting, that was for the best.
That ending really pissed me off when it came to Reed. I was just thinking, are you that dumb? Are you that brainwashed by the NUSA that you can't say anything bad about them? If you don't have the NUSA, you don't have a life? Is that what you're really telling me right now? It's kind of like if you get cheated on and then you keep making excuses for the person who cheated on you. It's stupid as hell to me to do that. It has nothing to do with you. It's all them. You know what I mean? You don't have to rectify or make excuses for their badass situation, for their stupid choices. The same thing goes for Reed in the NUSA. He makes excuses for why he continues to serve these people, though they've done nothing for him. He owes nothing of himself to the NUSA, yet time and time again continues to give them everything he has, and he has nothing to show for it. He has no friends, he has no family, he has nothing but this title of being an FIA agent, which later on, if you go in and get the surgery that V is supposed to have, they strip him of that as well. They put him behind a desk. The guy looks sad and old as hell. When Reed had the conversation with V saying that he didn't know how to give up, he didn't know how to quit, he felt responsible for what had happened to all of the agents that he brought into the NUSA, yet he had a job to do. He was loyal to a fault, but I think his loyalty lied in the wrong hands. And this is where I get to leave it up to you all, my chooms. Was Reed somebody you could trust? Did he care about his agents? Was he just a puppet? Was he doing this voluntarily? Was he a good guy or a bad guy? I'd love to hear from y'all in the comments below. Thank y'all so much for sticking around for the video. It's been quite some time and I appreciate all of y'all's support. Go ahead and quick hack that like button if you really enjoyed the video, and subscribe to the channel for more Cyberpunk content. If you want to support the channel outside of that, then visit my merch store at g7astro.space. There's lots of cool gear on there and it all goes to support the channel and making more quality videos. And I can't wait to see y'all all out there looking astronaut fresh. Can you dig it? And remember to take care of yourselves out there. Stay safe. I'm sending you nothing but love and positivity. Don't start no shit and definitely don't take no shit. Just be careful out there, okay? And I can't wait to see y'all on my next video. So let's go ahead and end transmission, because your boy is out. Peace.